Today we're diving into a surprising topic, the top 10 US states that secretly dislike Canada in 2025. You might think the US and Canada are best buds, but the reality is a bit more complicated. We've crunched the data, scoured the forums, and found some states with unexpected cross-border beef. Ready to see which states aren't sending Canada a Valentine's Day card? Let's jump in. Number 10 is New York, the Empire State. Famous for its big city lights, upstate charm, and of course its unique relationship with its northern neighbor, Canada. You'd think sharing the breathtaking wonder of Niagara Falls would make them besties, right? But as it turns out, the rivalry between New York and Canada runs deeper than the falls themselves. Who has the better view? New Yorkers claim their side is raw, untamed, and real, nature in its purest form. Canadians, on the other hand, boast about their panoramic vistas and luxury hotels, saying the best way to see the falls is with a plush robe and room service. And when it comes to sports, the border heats up even more. Buffalo versus Toronto is a classic showdown. Hockey, football, and endless bragging rights are always on the line. Whether it's the Sabres and the Maple Leafs on the ice or NFL fans tailgating in the parking lot, the competition is fierce and the pride runs deep. Even city pride gets competitive. New York City and Toronto both claim to be the true global hub. One's the city that never sleeps, the other's the city that always shines. Each side is convinced their city is the center of the universe. Crossing the border isn't always smooth either. There are customs forms, endless questions, and that one grumpy guard who seems to have made it their mission to keep things interesting. It's all part of the experience. For New Yorkers, Canada is like the cousin who's just a little too perfect, polite, clean, and always ready with a friendly smile. It's hard not to feel a little competitive. But it's not hate. It's a complicated love with a dash of sibling rivalry. They poke fun, compete, and sometimes argue, but deep down, there's a bond that can't be broken. The falls, the sports, the culture, every little thing adds up to a relationship that's as dynamic as it is entertaining. From multicultural festivals to food fights over who invented the best snack, there's never a dull moment. And that's why New York kicks off our list. It's a state that knows how to stand out even when it's sharing the spotlight. Sometimes being neighbors means you know exactly how to get under each other's skin, but it also means you share memories, traditions, and a whole lot of laughs. So, New York, you're number 10, not enemies, just frenemies. Let's see who's next. On to number 9. Number 9 is Michigan, where the US-Canada rivalry is practically a way of life. Detroit and Windsor are auto industry frenemies, partners and competitors always eyeing each other's success. When a factory opens in Windsor instead of Detroit, it stings. Hockey, the Red Wings versus Maple Leafs is a generational grudge match. For Michiganders, beating the Leafs is personal. Canada's team is the ultimate villain. Even shopping and nightlife cross the border, but so do traffic jams and sighs of, ugh, the Canadians are here. It's a love-hate relationship with a lot of pride and a little bit of envy. Michigan and Canada, always close, never quite cozy. That's why Michigan lands at number 9. The rivalry is real and it's not going anywhere. Let's keep moving. Who's at number 8? Stay tuned. Next up, Alaska. Number 8 is Alaska, the state surrounded by Canada, literally. Alaska is America's largest and most remote state, separated from the rest of the country by thousands of miles of Canadian wilderness. Its unique position means that, unlike any other state, Alaska is almost an island, cut off from the lower 48 by a vast international border. To drive to the rest of the US, Alaskans have to cross Canada dealing with border checks, speed limits, and high gas prices. Every road trip out of Alaska is an international journey, with travelers facing customs inspections, strict regulations, and sometimes long waits at remote border crossings. For many Alaskans, these hurdles are just part of daily life, but they add a layer of complexity to even the simplest travel plans. But the real tension? Salmon. These iconic fish are more than just a symbol. They're the lifeblood of local economies and cultures on both sides of the border. Fishing rights between Alaska and British Columbia are a constant source of conflict. Both American and Canadian fishermen depend on the same salmon runs, and disputes over quotas, conservation, and access flare up year after year. Alaskan fishermen blame Canadian practices for dwindling salmon runs. This isn't just politics, it's their livelihood. When salmon numbers drop, entire communities feel the impact, from lost income to cultural traditions at risk. The border isn't just a line, it's a battleground for resources. Every season brings new negotiations, and sometimes new frustrations. as each side tries to protect its own interests. Alaskans are fiercely independent, and the Canadian rules next door feel like an intrusion. Many locals see these regulations as obstacles to their way of life, fueling a sense of rivalry and stubborn pride. The wilderness may look seamless, but for locals, the divide is real. The border cuts through forests, rivers, and mountains, shaping everything from trade to travel to the environment itself. For Alaska, Canada is both a neighbor and a competitor. The relationship is a mix of cooperation and competition, with shared challenges and ongoing disputes. That's why Alaska sits at number 8. Its unique geography and cross-border tensions make it one of the most complicated state relationships in America. The last frontier's northern friction is alive and well, shaping daily life and the state's identity. Who's next on the list? Let's head east and see which state faces its own unique border challenges. Number 7 is Vermont, a state where the rivalry with Quebec is as sweet and as sticky as the maple syrup that both regions are famous for. Nestled in the heart of New England, Vermont's rolling hills and dense forests come alive every autumn. Not just with color, but with the anticipation of syrup season and the friendly competition it brings, Vermont takes immense pride in its syrup, with local producers perfecting their craft over generations. But just across the border, Quebec stands tall as the undisputed global king, churning out the majority of the world's maple syrup supply. The shelves in Vermont are lined with bottles boasting pure Vermont maple syrup. But in Quebec, syrup is big business, stored in massive barrels and even regulated by a syrup cartel. It's a classic David versus Goliath story, with every bottle of Vermont syrup representing a declaration of independence and local pride. For Vermonters, syrup isn't just a topping, it's a symbol of their heritage, a point of pride at every breakfast table, and a way to stand out from their northern neighbors. But the competition doesn't stop at syrup. It spills over into the winter months when Vermont and Quebec go head-to-head for ski tourism. From the powdery slopes of Stowe to the bustling runs of Mont Tremblant, both regions vie for the attention and dollars of winter sports enthusiasts. Even the border crossings between these two syrup giants can get complicated. Small towns straddle the line, dealing with quirky legal issues and the challenges of cross-border life, where neighbors might live in one country and work in another. There's a political edge, too. Vermont's progressive spirit often meets Canada's national policies, sparking both admiration and occasional annoyance on both sides of the border. Whether it's healthcare, environmental policy, or social issues, the two regions sometimes find themselves in a friendly tug-of-war. Beneath the flannel shirts and the craft beer culture, there's a fierce rivalry for identity, tradition, and economic success. Vermonters are fiercely proud of their small batch products, while Quebecers celebrate their global reach. On the surface, Vermont and Quebec are friendly neighbors, sharing festivals, markets, and even family ties. But underneath, the competition is real. Each side determined to outdo the other, whether it's in syrup, skiing, or simply state pride. That's why Vermont earns its spot at number 7 on our list, a state defined by its sweet rivalry and its unyielding spirit. The syrup wars are real, and the competition is as fierce as ever. Next up, Minnesota. Let's lace up and skate over to see what makes it stand out. Number 6 is Minnesota, the state of hockey, and the state of rivalry with Canada. Hockey is life here, and every USA versus Canada game is personal. The Minnesota Wild versus Winnipeg Jets? That's a border battle with extra edge. Minnesotans want to prove they're the true hockey heartland, not just Canada's little brother. Cross-border shopping brings crowds and traffic, fueling a love-hate dynamic. Culturally, Minnesotans get lumped in with Canadians, but they're eager to assert their own identity. It's a sibling rivalry, close, competitive, and sometimes a little prickly. Minnesota and Canada, two peas in a frozen pod, always trying to outdo each other. That's why Minnesota skates into our number 6 spot. The ice is never quite settled. Who's cracking the top 5? Let's find out next. North Dakota. Number 5 is North Dakota, where oil is thicker than water. The Bakken oil boom pits North Dakota against Saskatchewan in a high-stakes resource race. Pipeline politics and job competition fuel local frustration, while border security concerns add to the tension. Beneath the Peace Garden state motto, it's all about economic rivalry and recognition. North Dakota drills its way into the top 5. Number 4 is Maine, where lobster is life, and Canada is the competition. Maine lobstermen feel undercut by Canadian counterparts who fish the same waters and flood the market. The lobster wars are real, with disputes over boundaries, prices, and heritage. In border towns, the rivalry is part of daily life, from sports to seafood. Mainers are fiercely independent, and Canada is the other in their backyard. That's why Maine claws its way to number 4. Let's see who's next. Number 3 is Montana, where cattle, water, and wild spaces fuel the rivalry with Alberta. Ranchers compete for beef markets, and old wounds from border closures still sting. Water rights and outdoor tourism add to the competition. Who has the better mountains, the better parks? Culturally, Montanans see Canada as a nanny state, clashing with their independent spirit. The 49th parallel is a line of both friendship and friction. That's why Montana rides into our top 3. Who's our runner-up? Number 2 is Washington, where the rivalry with Canada is all about tech, trade, and traffic. Seattle and Vancouver compete for tech talent, with Canada's immigration policies luring workers north. The ports of Seattle and Vancouver battle for shipping contracts, each trying to dominate Pacific trade. Sports rivalries, Kraken versus Canucks, Sounders versus Whitecaps, add fuel to the fire. The busy border crossing at Blaine is a daily reminder of the friction. For Washington, Canada is both a partner and a competitor. That's why Washington is our runner-up. But who's number 1? And at number 1, the most surprising state, Idaho. Idaho's short border with Canada is a symbolic front line in a culture war. As Idaho's population grows more conservative, Canada represents everything they're pushing back against: gun control, taxes, and socialist policies. The rivalry is less about products and more about ideology and identity. Outdoor tourism competition with British Columbia adds to the mix. For many Idahoans, Canada is the boogeyman of the political left. It's a quiet but intense opposition. That's why Idaho tops our list. And that's a wrap. Did any of these states surprise you? The US-Canada border is friendlier than most, but there's plenty of rivalry simmering underneath. Which state do you think should have made the list? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this countdown, hit like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching. Stay curious and maybe be a little extra nice to your neighbors. See you next time.